You are listening to the Special Needs Children podcast with Chitra Iyer. Chitra Iyer is a parent of 25-year-old Shravan Iyer who has epilepsy, cerebral palsy and autism. She is the CEO of MFA and has been helping families with life-centered planning to reach their personal financial goals. She is also a trustee of a parent support group, the Forum for Autism, which was set up almost 2 decades ago. MFA is an 18-year-old organization in the personal finance space. They have set up a dedicated practice to help families with special needs children to plan their financial goals and invest for them. The thoughts shared here are a result of the discussion with parents, caregivers, siblings, and professionals regarding the planning of a person with special needs. In this expert series podcast, Chitra Iyer is talking to Ms. Radhika Agarwal. Ms. Radhika is a part of V-shesh's founding team and has the overall responsibility for V-shesh operations in Western India. V-shesh Foundation is an organization that is known for its work in the field of skill development and employment for people with disabilities. In this interview, Ms. Radhika shares her personal journey and how she became involved in advocating for individuals with disabilities and how skill development plays a crucial role in empowering individuals with disabilities.
Hello everyone, a big warm welcome to you on this expert series of my podcast for special needs children. Thank you so much for your time today, Radhika, to agree to do this interview with me. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, Chitra, and thank you for having me over.
Most welcome. Really waiting and eager to listen to the entire, everything that you have to answer to all of my questions that I have for you. So, to formally introduce you to all our listeners, Radhika is a member of V-shesh's founding team. V-shesh is an impact enterprise known for its work in the field of skill development and employment for people with disabilities. Its objective is to provide opportunity to ambition. In addition to training, employment, and inclusion services, Radhika has been involved with development of their learning services practice, SOLVE, an English language learning program for deaf students. This expanded to deaf schools in Southeast Asia, including Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. She has been instrumental in setting up V-shesh's practice on neurodiversity, which involves specialized training and placement of trainees with neurodivergence. She plays a crucial role in the organization's efforts to empower individuals with disabilities, as well as organizations progressing their journey to inclusion. So, my first question coming to you is, can you please share how V-shesh Foundation was set up? What inspired the creation of the organization? And what was the initial vision for empowering individuals with disabilities?
Yeah, so V-shesh is actually it's not it's not an NGO. It's not a not-for-profit. We're a profit-making body, and it was set up as an enterprise almost 13 to 14 years back, with the intent to see it grow. And at a time when nobody was paying. So when we charged for our services, nobody was really willing to pay for it. But slowly and gradually, with the growing of the market, the needs of students, organizations, etc., we started getting paid for our services as well. The vision for V-shesh is, to get jobs for all. Our tagline itself talks about opportunities to ambition and is aligned to the goal of leaving no one behind. V-shesh was the brainchild of P. Rajashekharan and Shashank Avasti. They go back as being, very, very close friends from their MBA days. So when we started the journey, I think the initial thought was to start with people who come from marginalized backgrounds. But as time moved, we started moving into the space of disability. Our first endeavor was with deaf persons. We started getting jobs for them and then gradually expanded our scope to working with persons with physical disabilities. Over the last 8 to 9 years, we started working with neurodivergent candidates. And currently, we are also working with people who are blind persons with mental health issues, and also rare conditions like multiple sclerosis, Sjogren's syndrome, etc. The ethos for Vishesh's foundation, is that uh, inclusion is the main thought behind the setup of this company. I think the founders and all of us today would like to create a level playing field for the marginalized. So access to employment, is a very very good way. It's a good litmus test for inclusion, because once a person starts earning, it helps them to become confident. It helps the family to start trusting them. It brings in social acceptance and independent living. So the entire perception of the individual changes. And the idea of Vishesh is to create opportunities for those who have been left behind. So the Shesh part in Vishesh actually talks about creating opportunities for those who've been left behind. And I think the important part that we'd like to emphasize is, we try to find them jobs which are aligned to their ambition. We just don't want to get them a fit because we feel that, this is the fit for them. We want to get them a fit that they would like any other non-disabled individual. So that's, about our journey to, from start to today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this. It sounds really one huge tough one that has gone over the years, a lot of effort that has gone in. I was going to ask you about who do you cater to, and you already shared about this. Do you wish to add anything furthermore here about who you cater to today?
So, what I'd like to add here, Chitra, is that we look at students. Yes, of course, we look at the entire spectrum of disabilities, and we try to, because we are a private limited company, we try to treat our trainees as clients. We try to service their needs, service their ambitions. We also work with organizations who are looking to embark on their disability inclusion journey. So right from start to finish, right from when they draft their policies to accessibility of their infrastructure and digital technologies, to empowering, mentoring, and coaching people with disabilities, we look at the entire journey. We don't necessarily need to do the entire journey in a linear manner. We help organizations in any part of their journey. And the idea is also to work with the entire ecosystem to make it inclusive. So, if you look at our learning program where we've worked with deaf students, we do try to work with students. We try to work with students in colleges as well. We work with corporates. We try to set up an enabling environment through sensitization workshops, accessibility audits, etc. So, the entire gamut of work spans students, organizations, and the entire ecosystem.
That's really, really very, very informative. So, I believe you use a lot of technology, right? So, wanted to go straight there. That in what ways would you say that technology can be leveraged to make skill building programs much more accessible to individuals with disabilities today? And according to you, how does this contribute to their overall empowerment?
So technology has really been a game changer, especially I think post COVID. We've all used technology, but I think it also brought to light the fact that India being the diverse country that it is, there is a whole chunk of population that does not have access to gadgets and devices. In fact, they were the ones who were kind of left out during the COVID period. So digital transformation is definitely happening in India, but we need to ensure that we do provide access to devices, access to digital devices for all our students in schools. When we are doing skill building training programs, we need to make sure that digitization is a big part of it and devices are provided there, in colleges as well. The other part is, there are a lot of assistive technologies that have come up over the last decade or more. But it's not just enough to have assistive technologies. We need to make sure that the environment is conducive. So, for example, you have screen readers, and people with vision impairment can use their screen readers on their laptop to access the entire internet, right? But if your website is not accessible, right, then the entire point is lost. So environments need to be made accessible in terms of ensuring websites are accessible. And today, we pretty much use digital medium for everything that we do. So be it from banking to filing our taxes to uh, you know uh, paying our bills, everything is digitized. But if we don't make sure that all these systems are made accessible for assistive technologies, then we are actually going to be leaving out a large chunk of the population behind. So that's about assistive technologies. I think we need to grow much more in this field, and to make sure that we provide good uh, digitization to everybody. The other thing, I think assistive artificial intelligence, so generative AI that we talk a lot about, has become a big thing in today's world. And generative AI can be used very, very, well to kind of bridge the gaps for learning and employment. So for example, when I was trying to understand how a blind student is understanding graphs, he did it beautifully by putting the picture onto an AI platform and asking AI to interpret the graph for him. So simple things like this, or captioning in the videos is something that can be done for deaf persons, even for neurodivergent candidates. And Chitra, I'm sure, with your experience with so many candidates, you'd understand that, the user experience of interacting with every child is so different. So once this user experience is fed into the bot, maybe, they will have many use cases that can help them to come out with an individualized approach for, every different person and their different queries. So I think this is how, in many, many ways, assistive technologies can be used to, assist persons with disabilities, both for learning and for employment.
Thanks for that detailed explanation, Radhika. Um, what I would like to understand more is that one is technology, but your whole focus privately is skill development, right? So, can
Right.
you please elaborate and help everyone understand how does skill development play a crucial role in empowering individuals with disabilities, both in terms of personal growth and employment opportunities?
Okay, so Chitra, I'd like to break this question up into, why do we even need skill development? And then go on to talk about, what are the different types of skill development
Sure,
programs
sure.
that we have.
Yeah.
So, when we're talking about persons with disabilities, I think one needs to keep in mind, the kind of backgrounds they come from. It's disadvantaged in many, many ways because there are a lot of societal barriers. Getting to school can be a big problem because of the infrastructural barriers. In school, access to education can be a big problem for both blind and deaf students because we don't have access to audiobooks, we don't have access to training in sign language, etc. So there is a huge gap with access to opportunities when it comes to persons with disabilities. The biggest of them all, the biases, that families, the society, friends, etc. have about the cohort. So I think we have a huge number of dropouts uh, right in class 10th and 12th. So the number has been huge a decade before. I think maybe slight improvement in the numbers with time now. Even if we go into higher education, right, we don't have colleges for persons with disabilities. A lot of the institutions are mainstream. So if you think about it, I mean, if you look at India itself, we don't have many colleges for deaf students where you actually teach them using sign language. So they are sitting in mainstream classes with the rest of their batchmates and listening in to the lectures. So how much do you think they are absorbing of the skills, of the functional knowledge that is being taught in the classroom sessions? How many doctors who are blind people, deaf people, neurodivergent people, how many doctors, lawyers, engineers have you heard of, right? Is it because they lack the talent? Possibly not. It's because they don't have the opportunities to continue with those fields. So what typically happens is they come out of their colleges with a simple graduation degree, and they really lack in the skills that they have acquired through their foundational years. So right from school, running into colleges. Now, if you look at trainings for employment, you have a lot of institutes which give them this training to bridge the gap. There are institutions which provide training in language skills, soft skills, workplace etiquettes, MS Office, all of these. But these skills are not in formats that are accessible to our candidates. So herein lies a huge gap. When these candidates try to make it into professional workplaces, they find that they come from a space of disparity. The jump from college to employment is huge. They are competing with people who've gone through mainstream education, have had access to good education, functional knowledge. They've been exposed to social etiquettes, norms, etc. And therefore, there is a huge disparity with persons with disability. So I believe that skill development plays a crucial role in helping hone these skills, right from functional skills to domain knowledge to soft skills, which will help them to integrate at the workplace. As we give them this training, they understand what are the etiquettes, what are the requirements for working in a workplace. Now typically these trainings, that functional, when I'm talking about functional skills, digitization, learning about digital technology, soft skills, these trainings can span some anything from 1 to 2 years, but we actually crunch it into a 3 to 4 month training, because we believe that you can't get trained for that long, neither do they have uh, the finances, and they are looking out for employment. They come from backgrounds where they need to be trained. So we are crunching this entire experience that they have missed out through their college, through post college, into a short time frame of 2 to 3 months, but with a lot of personalized effort, with focused training on functional skills, on digital technologies, very 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 focused on what one would require at the workplace, teaching them about domain knowledge, helping them, organize a lot of interactions, gives them that boost and confidence to enter into the workplace. So I think that's where skill development trainings play a very very important role in helping them integrate into the workplace. Now, if I were to talk about, what are the different skill development programs, and especially with V-shesh, because we've been, that's a core part of our work. So we have a lot of different trainings that are funded by companies, associations. So, for example, American Indian Foundation, NASCOM, CII. So, a lot of trainings funded by them and by CSRs as well, which can be around IT skills. It can be around banking, back office operations. It could be related to accounts related jobs, etc. But they're very, very focused on what the employer requires. And over a period of time, we've done these trainings batch by batch for persons with different needs. We've made these trainings in formats that are accessible to them. So, for example, we organize trainings for deaf people very regularly. We're going to make sure that we always have a sign language interpreter who would be there. We would be giving them material in simpler formats because language can be a challenge for them. We make sure there is complete understanding. We spend time to clarify post classroom as well. If it is a training for blind persons, which we've done for customer support and accessibility training, we make sure that we're giving them material that is screen reader friendly. There are descriptions of the material in class, which is visual. If there is subjects like IT, etc., we make sure, the cohort is able to catch what is going on, in that sense. The training, I think, that is closest to my heart, and I would love to talk about that. That's something that I'm completely involved in, is for persons with neurodivergence. We call this onwards. And Chitra, the genesis of this training, I think I would attribute to Forum for Autism, because when we were looking out for people to place, I think I had many parents come to us and say, and especially Manjusha and Darshana, who continuously prodded us, saying that, why don't you train our kids? And from the little experience that I had, and I'm talking about almost 8 to 9 years back, I knew that we can't do the generalized training that we do for blind and deaf candidates, because we have big batch sizes. We can accommodate 20 to 25 persons in our batches, on the higher limit, and in a on the lower limit about 15. But somewhere I knew that we can't do that with our neurodivergent candidates, because you need very specialized focused groups of 5 to 6 or a maximum of 7 people in a batch. So this happened at COVID times. We did an online training, and this has gradually evolved into a program where we've started doing trainings full-fledged for persons with neurodivergence. To just tell you a little bit about the training, we focus on activity based learning. And I remember from your podcast with Dr. Vibha Krishnamurthy that she talks about giving students chores, because these chores help them to plan activities, they help them to manage their time, they help them to sequence, they help them to execute. And that's exactly the ethos of our training as well. We have learning methods which are tailored to the individual needs of every cohort. We divide the batches by cohort. We recognize the fact that every person may not be able to learn mathematics or foundational skills, or very very advanced Excel skills for a job with the top notch MNCs. So we try to form cohorts that match the skill set of the students, and we try to push them to their maximum potential. So that to me is something that I feel has really helped our batch of students to learn well, to learn in an atmosphere where they believe in themselves, and they work alongside us to really you know to really to give it their best. So when I'm talking about this activity based approach, we have projects, and we look at a five pronged approach. So we look at five areas of improvement that we work with on with our candidates. This is kind of derived from the global education frameworks, which speaks about every student needs to develop skills with regard to critical thinking and problem solving. They need to look at social collaborations. They need to build on their foundational skills. They need to know themselves, and they need to also develop social etiquettes. So this entire framework is what we've expanded into our onwards program, where we are looking, of course we've divided every batch into levels. So it's level 1, 2 and 3. And for every batch we look at, so for example, if it's a batch of students who may not be able to do advanced Excel, we still look at how they can develop the skills to find solutions on their own, right? So if they are stuck at a particular place, or they are stuck in a location, they're not able to reach their parent, uh, or their parent is not with them, how can they find the solution to reach their parent? So through simple activities, so problem solving and thinking out of the box for every cohort. I don't want to, just because we are using fancy terminologies of critical thinking and problem solving, it does not necessarily mean that you're solving the world's problems. You're just solving simple issues that are impacting your life around you. And that's what we're trying to build into our students. Again, workplace etiquettes in terms of, working in teams, which is again something difficult for, our students with neurodivergence, because working in teams is difficult. So, talking about workplace etiquettes, how to collaborate with your peers in your classrooms. So that's an important part. And again, just sharing, and I know I may be taking up a little extra time here, but we always say this, that persons with autism are not socially very comfortable. They are socially awkward. So this was also a realization for me, Chitra, because when I started this training, there were a batch of 5 people who would sit in 5 different corners eating their lunch. There was literally very little interaction with them. As time progressed, and of course we would keep pushing them to eat lunch together, asking them questions about each other. They really developed a good bond. We did a trip on the monorail with them, and they formed a WhatsApp group on their own. We taught them how to travel independently to the workplace. So two of the candidates started, and they figured how to reach the workplace. And uh, the plan was for 2 more to join in after a month. And they came back and they said, the other 2 who were to join after a month, they said, we already know how to get to that place, because the persons who joined in the first batch took us on a tour of how to get to the workplace. And it was, I think, almost like such a eureka moment for me. We talk about people being socially awkward, but here was this batch who was bonding so well, so beautifully, and they were working as mentors and support people for their own friends. So we talk about social collaboration, and also knowing yourself, right? Because they've come from a space where they faced a lot of exclusion from their childhood. So, talking about understanding what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, how are they perceived by people. So, working on all their negative perceptions to help them feel more positive about themselves. And finally, of course, there is a huge focus on foundational skills, on English, on digital technology, on learning simple money matters, etc. Because that is, how they're going to move into the workplace. So this is how we actually work on our skill development programs. It's across disabilities, and currently we've started on this new program for neurodivergent. The last thing I'd like to add, Chitra, is at V-shesh, when we do our trainings, we don't look at scale. That we are not looking at how many students are we able to train, quantity and mass, but we try to look at impact, because we recognize that every individual is important, every job is different, and every individual needs to make it to that particular different job. So a lot of our solutions are customized to the individual. I hope that
No,
answers.
no, that was an absolutely very, very detailed, comprehensive, and I love listening to it about how how you explained right from just all those jargonish terms, but it really explains when you're teaching a child how to get home on their own and overcome all the daily living problems in life, and you empowering them and getting them ready to actually land up in a workplace with better communication and crucial skills that they need, which is way beyond what they would have learned in their entire schooling life. And that was really a wonderful answer, Radhika, no doubt. I want to move to the other side of the table. That is, how can workplaces be made ready for employment and inclusion? What would you say to that?
So, workplaces, I think, Chitra, we just did one webinar on, how workplaces have evolved over the last decade. So, if I really look back at the journey, I think I recall 13 years back how we were, almost pleading with employers to say, why don't you give them a chance? And, there was no question of asking them to, remunerate us for the placements. It was like they would say that, okay, we are taking in a candidate and we're almost doing you a favor, to now where people have started, or organizations and employers have started recognizing that having, diversity, having persons with disability is not something that they need to do for social impact, but it would add value to their workplaces, right? So that entire shift in perspective is, I think, something that is, very, very valuable. Talking about, how workplaces can be made uh, inclusive and ready for employment for persons with disabilities. So Vishesh uses a 4E approach, and I think that's a lot of organizations would be doing it. We talk about creating, so the 4E talks about enable, employ, engage, and empower. Now, if I were to expand each of these E's, enable is, where we work with workplaces to provide an enabling environment. So through, ensuring that their physical infrastructure is accessible for persons or employees with disability, ensuring that digital technology is made available. It is digital accessibility is, provided to employees who require help. Assistive technologies, reasonable accommodations, right? Reasonable accommodations could be in the form of providing them, devices like, big keyboards, big screens. It could be in the form of providing employee screen readers on their laptops. It could even be in the form of, ensuring websites are made accessible. So we provide an enabling environment. The second part is about employment, which is, a lot of work goes in right from the stage of mobilizing the candidate to, getting them for the interviews, making sure that the panel or the managers and HR who is going to screen the candidates are sensitized to the needs of trainees or interviewees with disability. We make sure that we have a good understanding of the job descriptions that have been provided. These job descriptions need to be made inclusive. So anytime we look at a job role, if you look at a job role that is given out by the company, it talks about excellent communication skills. Everything talks about being excellent, the need to communicate, the need to interact with clients, the need to report, the need to email. But I think, Chitra, you and I both know that while a lot of the candidates will have a lot of the skills and will do some things even better than non-disabled candidates, they may find difficulty due to their disability on a lot of counts. So when we look at job descriptions, we try to cull out what are the essential functions. We try to segregate what are the marginal functions or not so important functions. So for example, if a role is about back office operations, maybe speaking to the client is not a core part of the role. It can be done by another team member. So the minute we separate out these marginal roles, this job can be opened up to a lot of candidates who are deaf, and even to our neurodivergent candidates who may not be comfortable having conversations verbally. So we try to work with clients to make their job descriptions more inclusive. We also work with, once they are into the organizations, we provide a lot of post-placement support. So this is especially true for, deaf persons, because they would need training in sign language. So the initial training is something that we work on. We work with the teams to train them. We help them to make a small dictionary of the important words in sign language, and then train the peers on basics of sign language to establish a mode of communication with the candidate. So this is how we do provide for post placement support. In case of neurodivergent candidates, buddy support plays a very important role. So again, helping the buddy to understand more about the candidate, their ways of learning, because some of them could be very comfortable learning visually. Some of them may be, happy with reading text. Some may be audio learners. So helping them understand the ways of learning, breaking down complex trainings into simpler granular forms so that they understand the jobs better. We also tell them a lot about the candidates, because simple things like a lot of candidates with neurodivergence are socially not very comfortable with looking you in the eye and greeting you, or some of them tend to have a fetish for washing their hands very frequently. They may not like buttoned up shirts. These are simple things which are, which are difficult for neurotypical people to understand. So helping them, understand these, little behavioral challenges that persons with neurodivergence would have, things that can trigger them. We work closely with, the teams to help them, understand these issues in a better way. Some of the things that we also work with employers with is, we talk to them about, having conversations with the new employees. It's not just enough to have conversations the way you would with non-disabled employees, because they come from a space where sometimes they may not be able to openly ask for their accommodations. So one-on-one conversations with managers, with peers, can really help to iron out a lot of the issues, where they can speak openly about what are the problems they are facing on a regular basis. So for example, persons with physical impairment, may find it, they may be, ticking all the right boxes in terms of having accessibility. They may be having the right infrastructure. They may be having the right assistive technologies. They may be providing support for transfer, all of these. But, is there inclusion with the other team members? So these things can come out very well with the, one-on-one conversations that you hold with the employees. We also talk about, when we're looking at employers, also what, a lot of employers have started doing is they've started forming employee resource groups, where they are like support forums for persons with disabilities. And whatever challenges are being faced by the employees, the group takes it up and finds ways of resolving it. So we also help with, support to, uh, you know, uh, uh, employees, mentoring, coaching them to, come out with their problems, because sometimes they're not able to articulate it to their managers. But mentoring and coaching can be a good way in which, they can reach out to their mentors, and talk about the various problems that they're encountering. So these are some small ways in which, we uh, work with the employers to create readiness. The last part, and perhaps the most important, is, I think getting any person into the workplace is possible if you have a buy-in of the leadership. So we also work closely with organizations to, kind of help them with their equal opportunity policies. We review their policies, their processes, to get a good understanding of what are the benefits that the company is currently offering, and how these can be tailored for people with different disabilities. So, for example, uh, 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 everybody talks about having leaves. So they have leaves which are very structured into medical leaves, casual leaves, privilege leaves, etc. But if you really look at it, for a person who has a blood disorder, right? Thalassemia or sickle cell anemia, etc. They do need, a lot of blood transfusions, and this happens fairly regularly. It could be, once in 2 weeks to once a month, etc. So helping the company even understand, what are the accommodations that persons with different needs would require, and whether the company can give them these accommodations, because this may not, be fulfilled with the regular sick leave that a employee is entitled to. So reasonable accommodations is something that we also work very closely with, with the employer. So that's, somehow a little bit about how we work on the employment front with organizations to make it more inclusive for all.
You know what, Radhika, I'm going to come back to you and do a special session only about everything that you shared in the last answer about how to make a corporate ready. It was absolutely brilliant, and I'm going to pick and chew your head a little more and want to ask for another interview on this. Only this specifically. Okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think
And
Raja would be your person there, and we
I
can
would love
definitely get him
to,
on the
yeah,
show too.
please, I need to do this because it's going to be so helpful, everything that you said. It's going to be extremely helpful for the entire environment of corporates who who want to do this, who want to contribute, but don't know how to go about it. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to come back to you for this. And I loved what you spoke about job description. As you were saying, I just realized that everybody wants everything as excellent, but actually out there you don't have excellence. Even
Yeah.
mediocre and not even mediocre people feel that yeah, hey, I'm great, and then it's for the HR to decide, and then it's always compromise. Something is covering up for something else, and as you rightly said, an ops person who doesn't need to talk to a client is somebody who has to be extremely meticulous in their work, and that overshadows everything else, right?
Yeah.
So you said that so beautifully. So thank you. Thanks for.
I also
Uh,
want to add one point, Chitra. I think after COVID, we've, especially persons with disability, I think, have started opting and wanting to work out of home, which is great, right? But I think
yeah,
we also work a lot, and even employers feel that, oh, they can work out of home. But while we talk about giving them the flexibility to work from home, we also try to work with employers and our candidates and try to emphasize that hybrid is good. You
yeah, they
have,
don't need to be shut out. Yeah,
yeah, you
absolutely
don't
right.
need to shut yourself from social interactions,
Which
and
is most crucial.
yeah,
Yeah,
and learning, a lot of learning happens when you're sitting with each other round the table, talking and solving
true.
problems, right? So it
Absolutely
also hampers your career progression. So that's
correct.
also something I think,
Very, very important. Very
yeah,
true.
that's it.
Yeah. Now going on to the larger environment and regulatory environment that we live in. So, what would you say? How can governments and policymakers contribute to creating an environment that supports skill development and employment for individuals with disabilities? What do you say? What would you say?
So I think the 2016 Rights of Persons with Disability Act has been very, very progressive. It's moved the entire focus from a charity model to a rights-based model, and it talks about how to remove the barriers in society to create opportunities for people with disability. I think it's also talked about how of course it puts a mandate on the public sector, but it for the private sector there is no mandate on hiring. It has, in fact, what it's done is it's talked about how to make the environment more conducive. So it talks about looking at making their environment accessible, physical accessibility, digital accessibility, providing the right transport. It talks about having a liaison officer who can work with candidates, maintaining data, etc. I think in that sense, the RPWD Act has been very, very progressive. But even then, if we look at the ecosystem, or if we look at the space or the environment, it's only it also talks about reasonable accommodations. Sorry, I missed mentioning that. So RPWD Act talks about reasonable accommodations, but somewhere I think. There is this idea that reasonable accommodations can be very, very expensive. So, in effect, what has happened is only big companies who can finance and can handle the reasonable accommodations have started recruiting people with disabilities. The small and medium enterprises need to, I think the government needs to look at how to bring in the small and medium enterprises to hire people with disabilities, because they have a lot of simple job roles where they can be accommodated well. So if they can come up with any schemes, outcome based schemes, where if they employ so many people with disabilities, uh, you know uh, uh, they would get some kind of a benefit. So if you can create those kind of structures, I think it would create a lot of employment for uh, people with disabilities. The other thing is, there used to be a provident fund scheme where contribution by the government and the employer was encouraged, but gradually, because it's not been used a lot, that has kind of died down and it's not there. So if we could revive benefits like that would be something useful as well. The third thing that we can look at is in terms of skilling, there are a lot of ITI institutions, which provide skilling and training and subsequently employment to persons in the semi-urban, rural areas, etc. So these ITI institutions that we're talking of can be, looked at. They can be revamped to be, to have trainings which are also accessible, and they can provide employment opportunities for persons with disabilities. I think rather than looking at it from an input driven stand, if we can look at it from an output driven approach, what is it that employers need, and design trainings that can be given to our candidates to fulfill those needs. I think then the skill based trainings would be very, very useful for all. uh, Again, another point, that organizations like V-shesh, Enable India, a lot of the organizations, we can only train some 1,000+ students in a year and get some 600, 500, 600 jobs, but we need to have organizations and bodies like CII, NASCOM, who can help in aggregating and providing these trainings, and this can really, really help going to scale. So these are some thoughts around how we can make a little bit of a difference. If government can also finance these trainings, again with outcomes saying that maybe if they are trained and they can retain their jobs for 3 months, we are going to pay them a certain remuneration, then I think that would really go a long way in supporting skill development and employment in the country.
Absolutely fantastic suggestion, really. And I truly hope that somebody from the government is also going to be listening to this. What you said about ITI was also really very, very apt. Because yes, there are so many courses out there, and how can they be adapted and adopted for our kids?
Yeah.
It's something that it's completely doable. Absolutely.
Yeah. And also a
So,
step down, Chitra, I think, education also, though we have the education policy which talks about inclusive education, right? I think we need to delve deeper into understanding how to make this education really inclusive and, really that can offer benefits for employment for our students with disabilities later on, people with children with learning disabilities, they do not even get diagnosed until much later. Neither the teacher nor the parent is able to understand this. So having that kind of awareness, teacher trainings, how to take this education in a more cohesive way, so that it will generate more employment opportunities for the students later. Even teacher training programs, right? Because they are the ones who are giving the kids the foundational skills which will culminate into greater jobs later on. So I think the entire gamut, right from employers to educational institutions to skill development agencies.
true. I wanted to ask you that, looking ahead, what changes or developments do you hope to see in the landscape of skill building, and employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities? Considering, you are completely in the know, what would you say?
I think we need to. One is I think for me, I feel education. If we can look about changes in the education system, help students with learning disabilities learn different topics which will be more useful for their employment later. I think that would be one big change that I would like to start looking at. In terms of environments, if we can look at making environments more inclusive, creating accessibility in the infrastructure, in the digital spaces, etc. Even making small accommodations when we have people with disability around us. That's another thing that I think could make a huge difference. We talked about employment opportunities, and we talked about inclusive job roles, right? So, creating, looking at job roles which are not just conventional job roles, but maybe culling out job roles. So, just as an example, when uh, we often talk about it, that in many of the organizations you'll have job roles which require you to do very, very repetitive tasks. Now, a lot of neurotypical people don't like to do a lot of repetitive tasks, but we do have neurodivergent or persons with neurodivergence who may be comfortable and may enjoy repetitive tasks. So, culling together or creating job roles by putting together a lot of these job roles, right? So looking away from what is right now the convention to coming up with new job roles can be can create many employment opportunities for our people with disabilities. Also, screening methods, right? If there is greater awareness about understanding the challenges that people with disabilities face right from their schooling to education, I think people, if they understand this, they would be more receptive to uh, you know, f- uh, uh, tailoring the screening criteria that they have to employ people with disabilities in the organizations. And most of all, changing their approach, from thinking that they are doing them, some favor to understanding the talent and the value that they bring to the table. So I love this, talk by Richard Branson, where he speaks about having dyslexia. And he says, I learned early on in life that it would not be possible for me to do everything because I had my limitations, but I realized that there was out there many people who could do things better than me. And he employed people in different functions, and he's running this empire. So in the same way, I think it's important for non-disabled people to realize that there is a whole cohort of people out there who can really add value by the kind of work they can do. Like persons with autism can really be good at maybe pattern recognition or creativity, etc. So recognizing this and bringing them into the landscape, to add value by their strengths. So that's something that I feel can be done. And lastly, I think attitudinal change, where we can start even thinking about grooming leaders with disabilities to take on the roles, higher roles tomorrow. And last but not the least, if we can start thinking about caregiver support. I think this is one cohort that we really do not talk about. We do not even understand the kind of contribution that caregivers make to the lives of children with disabilities. So in all seriousness, looking at caregiver support, having conversations, just simple conversations about disability, which can remove so many of the stigmas, so many of the biases, that people have in their minds societally. And, I think more awareness so that, we can progress disability and inclusion in a more positive way across.
Wow. uh, you said so much, Radhika. Thanks a ton. Thank you for stating all of your thoughts and articulating them so precisely. I was always curious about, how your work has been impacting our families because I've heard from them that V-shesh did this, and this is what happened, and this is how my kid is actually in a workplace today, and the pride with which a parent speaks, you immediately know that somebody has really done something extremely important and impactful for that family. So what you shared gave the entire gamut of work that you, Raja and Shashank, have done so beautifully, so well over the years. Your replies were very insightful, and this will definitely help a lot of the families who are going to listen to it, and also those in organizations who wish to hire our adults in the workspace. I'm really thankful for you to have shared every aspect of the work done by Visheshan, so much detail in just hardly half an hour plus. I'm definitely going to request you and Raja for another podcast on what to tell employers who wish to hire and to those who have already hired. If we could also share some case studies, I feel this would be really helpful.
Yes, we definitely can, Chitra. We have a lot of
Yeah,
case studies that we can speak about.
thank you.
So
Yeah,
thank you so much. And it's not just Raja, Shashank, and me, but a shout out to the
the
entire
entire
Vishesh team
team, I can
who's been
imagine.
working
Yeah.
on this. I think I'm just
Yep.
talking about it, but
No,
it's a
thank
lot of
you. I
work.
mean, all the guidance that you also shared on changes you wish to see, that in itself was very nice. That you wish to see for the disabled population on whether it's skill building, you mentioned about the opportunities that are available, new job roles, inclusive employment opportunities. All of this will help in pushing people to take steps in a much focused way. Last, what you mentioned, the caregiver support is one topic that I would like to know your thoughts on in much more detail, next time we meet. So thank you. This interview will definitely help set up some best practices in the space of, skilling and employment for our people. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chitra.
Atan.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
You were listening to the Special Needs Children podcast with Chitra Iyer, the CEO of MFA and a trustee with the Forum for Autism. If you find this podcast relevant and interesting, it will be great if you leave a review, share, like, and subscribe. You can also let us know if there is any specific topic that you would like us to cover. Feel free to email her on chitra.iyer@myfinad.com, or you can call her on 9833-785-892. That is 9833-785-892.